Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. Our focus this morning is on diabetes. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, also known as the CDC, reports that the rate of new cases of diagnosed diabetes in the U.S. has begun to fall, but the numbers are still very high. More than 29 million Americans are living with diabetes and 86 million are living with prediabetes, a serious health condition that increases a person's risk of type 2 diabetes and other chronic diseases. My first guest represents an organization that's goal is to accelerate life-changing breakthroughs as well as to prevent and treat type 1 diabetes and its complications. Tanya Bissen is the executive director of the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, and we're also joined by Adam and Maggie Miller, and Maggie is the JDRF Youth Ambassador. Hi everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all so much for being here. And Tanya, JDRF has led the search for a cure for type 1 diabetes since 1970. So if you would tell us more about the organization and what it is you do.
Sure. So JDRF is the global leading organization funding type 1 diabetes research. And really, ultimately, our goal is to find a cure for type 1 diabetes.
Yes, and I think it's important right off the bat if we kind of clarify the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes.
Certainly. So the biggest differentiator with type 1 diabetes, first and foremost, is the pancreas, in essence, stops producing insulin altogether. And so type 1 diabetics are 100% dependent on taking insulin every day, multiple times a day for the rest of their life. And so there's no real understanding in when it occurs and why it occurs. It happens at any age, regardless of lifestyle, diet, or exercise. It just comes on, and we are trying to find a cure.
Yes, that's what it's all about. And with the research that has been done over the years, it's been found that an equal number of adults and children are diagnosed each and every day. So we've got Maggie here, and I've definitely made it clear that she is the youth ambassador for the organization, as well as Adam. You're her dad, and tell us what age was Maggie when she first got diagnosed, and how has that changed, you know, just how you and your family function on a daily basis?
Sure. So Maggie was diagnosed in August of 2015 when she was 5 years old, so about a year and a half ago. And living with type 1 has not necessarily changed what Maggie does, but it changes how we do those things. So Maggie's still involved with activities and sports and still has a normal diet and still gets treats, but it changes how we do those things. So we have to constantly be planning ahead. We have to be concerned with the carbohydrates that she's eating in her meals. We have to count those and ensure that she's getting the proper amount of insulin. When she's involved with activities, we have to consider how her body reacts to those activities, so she can still participate. We just have to plan ahead, and I suppose that's the biggest change that we've experienced since Maggie's been living with type 1 diabetes.
I think the best person to talk about what it's like, you know, having diabetes and some of the things that she has to do is Maggie. So Maggie, talk about, do you remember how you felt before you were diagnosed?
Well, I felt okay, but like I had to check my ketones the last appointment that I was at, and after the appointment, we had checked my blood sugar, and I was over 700, so I had to go to the hospital.
So for a kid, over 700 is...
That is not good.
Okay.
Her blood sugar was awfully high, and in those types of instances, it becomes an emergency. Yeah. And many kids are admitted to the hospital to bring those levels down. Yeah,
and I'm asking her if she remembers. She was like, what, 5? So what were some of the things that were brought to your attention that gave you the idea of even having her checked in the first place?
Yeah, so there were symptoms that we weren't necessarily aware of at the time. Now looking back, we can see the signs. So in a way, we were lucky in the way that Maggie was diagnosed and that she was in for a routine checkup in the doctor's office when they noticed that her blood sugars were off the charts, and they sent us immediately to the emergency room at Children's Hospital. Many kids aren't lucky in that they become very sick, and that's how they end up in the emergency room. But looking back at the symptoms, Maggie was drinking water, glass of water after glass of water every day. She had she was very hungry. She was eating more than normal. But she was diagnosed in the summer. So she was outside playing. She's very active. So these things at the time weren't necessarily obvious to us, but looking back, there were definitely signs.
Makes a lot of sense. And Tanya, when we look at part of the reason why JDRF was founded, it was parents like Adam who are determined to find a cure so that their children don't have to go through these changes in order to maintain their blood sugar, but can, even though, like you said, she's doing everything most kids do, but they still have to pay attention, making sure she is exactly where she needs to be.
Absolutely. So we actually have a pretty robust outreach program at JDRF that does connect families to really help them through that early and new diagnoses. So much like Maggie and her family, when they were first diagnosed, received what was called a bag of hope, which is fully funded through JDRF funds. And what it does is it really helps a family get to that normalized stage of how to live with type 1 diabetes every day. And so that our outreach program is pretty robust, and we have many volunteers throughout the whole entire state of Wisconsin that connect families to families and really help them through this process, and then also get them engaged with other activities, including our One Walks, our Ride program. We have a plethora of other programs that we can get our families connected.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that big walk that's coming up towards the end of summer. But Maggie, you are the youth ambassador, and so if you would kind of explain to us what that means and what are some of the things that you do.
So I'm going to be at the JDRF walk. I'm going to be saying my speech, and I'm going to be leading. My face is going to be on the front of the walk,
So you're a supermodel too. And do you talk to other kids that are maybe your age on some of the things that you have to do with diabetes? Yeah, so you do all of those things. How did you first become aware of this organization and the things they offer?
Sure. So when Maggie was in the hospital, when she was initially diagnosed, there was somebody from JDRF that came and met with us, which was a great thing. It was very comforting. I would say where we really got engaged with the organization was at the Type 1 Summit, which JDRF hosts each spring. And we were able to meet with people from JDRF. That's how we learned about the walk. That's how we initially signed up for the walk and really got involved. And since then, we've been happy to get more and more involved with the organization.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. And so we keep talking about this walk. So One Walk Milwaukee, this is your way of raising money for life-changing research and things of that nature to one day find that cure for type 1 diabetes. So tell us about the walk, when it's happening, where it's happening, all that good stuff.
So this year's One Walk will be Saturday, August 26th at Greenfield Park. It's a new location for us. We're really close to Cool Waters, if people are familiar with Cool Waters. So it's a fun, family-friendly activity where our type 1 community comes together and fundraises to support type 1 diabetes research. So there's kids activities, there's adult activities, live music, lunch supported by Johnsonville, and then really, truly, it's a great event that brings the community together to support.
Yeah, and you take the opportunity, I'm assuming, to also spread awareness of maybe some of the new research that has been found, and also really the more people know and understand about things like diabetes, the more they're able to have a conversation with someone who may have just been diagnosed, or maybe someone's child is showing some symptoms and they'll say, hey, that's all clicking and it makes sense. So it's not too soon for people to get signed up and be a part of the walk, right?
Yeah, not at all. I would encourage them to go to our website at walk.jdrf.org/Milwaukee. I know it's a mouthful, but you can also call our office at 414-203-5529 to get more information. But you know, we have hundreds of teams that come together on walk day. Our goal goal this year, we actually have 2 walks. We have a One Walk Milwaukee and a One Walk Kohler, where we fundraise, obviously in the same way, but our goal between those 2 walks is to raise over $800,000 to support research. So hefty goals, but we know we can do it, and we have a fantastic Type 1 community that comes together to help support and raise those funds. So.
Yes, and Maggie, being the ambassador, I just want to pick your brain a little bit. So if there's a young person who maybe you go to school with who's just been diagnosed with diabetes, what would you tell them if they were scared and didn't know what they were going to have to do from that point on? What advice would you have for them?
That diabetes isn't that hard. It's taking a shot when you go to the hospital. It's hard at first, but once you get used to it, it's really easy and it doesn't feel like anything. And there's a lot to learn really fast, and checking your blood sugar isn't that hard.
So you know how to do all those things. Check your own blood sugar, give yourself a shot, all those things? Oh wow, that's pretty amazing. So as Dad, what was it like trying to teach her the things that she needed to know, maybe while she's at school and she felt her sugar, like, I don't know, raising or lower. Yeah, it can go high or low. Yeah.
I'd say as a parent, that's one of the most nerve-wracking situations.
I'm sure.
You know, when Maggie's with us, it's very easy to keep an eye on these things. When she went back to school, it was a bit more difficult, and that we were relying on others. And thankfully, the school that we're at has very good staff that takes very good care of Maggie. But one of the things that I suppose has made it easier as a parent to try and manage those type of situations is some of the advances in technology.
Yeah.
So Maggie wears a continuous glucose monitor that's hooked up to a smartphone. So Jesse and I can monitor her blood sugar from wherever we are, which is a fantastic thing and adds a lot of peace of mind when she's not with us.
Yes, and that kind of goes hand in hand with, you know, not only research, but new technology that a lot of these researchers are able to come up with to give parents like Adam a peace of mind. That's pretty amazing, and I'm sure there are parents out there who are going, I didn't know that existed. So this is what you do as well. You kind of keep people informed of new technologies, as well as telling them about new research that has been found. The list goes on. So if you would give us your website address again, where people can go on and look at all of the things that you have to offer.
It's really easy, jdrf.org.
Okay.
You can find all of that.
There it is. Anything else you want to add today?
No, I mean, we're really honored to have Maggie and her family with us this year. There's a couple of activities that we'll be highlighting her in the coming weeks. First and foremost, she's going to be our guest speaker at our Progress to Type None Luncheon, which is May 18th, which kicks off our walk season. So we'll have that at Blackfin Ameripub out in Brookfield. So if you're interested in getting registered for One Walk, I encourage you to come out to that event and see Maggie and her family.
All right, thank you all so much for joining us. Adam, I know that you've helped someone out there who may be going through this journey with their child. Maggie, you did an outstanding job today, and I think that the advice that you would give a child would also be some great advice for an adult that's been newly diagnosed as well. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Tanya Bissen is the Executive Director for Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, and we've also been joined by Adam Miller and his daughter Maggie, who is the JDRF Youth Ambassador. When we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we'll continue our focus on diabetes. We'll talk to 2 well-known individuals from our community who will share their stories of being diagnosed with diabetes and how they successfully manage the disease on a daily basis. We'll talk to community organizer Andrea Ellis and journalist Eugene Kane right after this.